Family, let's see. Hello, family. It looks like we are live. Can you grab me that tablet right there so I can double check? I'm just going to double check and make sure you're live. We're live. You see a new face today. She's never
Hi,
been
everyone.
on, but she's going to be introducing herself momentarily, guys. And she has a question. The newest thing that we are doing right now, guys, is doing nonprofit hot seats. Hot profit. That's true too. But we're doing nonprofit hot seats, guys, where we basically answer some of the most common questions that you have. A lot of you all have questions about products and services and whether or not you can add a product or service to your nonprofit. And Charlie from Girl Empowerment had one of those same questions. She started as a nonprofit, but she's kind of confused about the products and service area. So that's what this space is for, is to answer your questions. If you have a nonprofit or authentic business and you want to be in the hot seat, comment below and I'll make sure to message you so we can get that scheduled as well. All right. So hello, as you're joining, I see a couple of people watching here. Just say hello and where you're from so I can give you a little shout out. And Charlie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and about Girl Empowerment?
Hello, and good morning, Tracy. Good afternoon, Tracy. Thank you for having Girl Empowerment Inc. join your platform. We are a grassroots, a nonprofit organization, and we actually have an entrepreneurship program for girls between the ages of 12 and 19. We teach them about self-development, entrepreneurship, leadership, and financial literacy. We actually have been inspired because we understand that there are a lot of girls who just need guidance. So we want to be able to make sure that their vision is being executed about what they want out of life, rather than sometimes when we're younger, we're forced to do what our parents want us to do rather than what it is that we truly want to do. So we just want to help guide our young ladies to those paths.
Awesome. And so for our nonprofits, we have ones located everywhere. You guys are located in Ohio, correct?
That is correct.
All right.
However, our board is kind of sprinkled throughout the United States. So, but yes, primarily our girls right now are just based in Ohio. Correct.
Okay. And so if someone has a young lady, what's the age group?
The age group is 12 to 19 years
12
old.
to 19. So if someone has a 12 to 19-year-old in the area, can they attend things if they're in the area, or do you also do virtual things as well?
Absolutely. And that's a great question, Tracy. Thank you for mentioning that. So right now we are online. We'll be going online in spring of 2021. And so we're just working on the logistics right now of trying to get everything together. We wanted to give the girls a chance to get acclimated with regular schooling and online, being that the pandemic is in place. And, we wanted the girls to just get used to doing their regular homework versus adding one more thing on their plate. So that's why we chose spring.
Gotcha. And quick shout out and hello to Terrell Jones from Rochester, New York. Thanks for saying where you're from and everything. Hello. Glad you can join us. If you have a nonprofit, let us know if you have one as well. All right. Well, that sounds like a wonderful program. Definitely, we are definitely, in my personal opinion, going through a shift in education, and we are needing mentorship now more than ever. A lot of times, unfortunately, but it just is what it is. We don't relate to our parents as much as we relate to someone else in the community that's helping us. Sometimes we have we feel a little bit more open. As when I remember when I was a youth, I didn't want to talk to my mom about anything, when I was a teenager. But if someone else is coming in and they're creating a good atmosphere, it makes them it's a little bit easier for them to open up. And sometimes you think you're going through things by yourself as a youth or as an adult, but when you open up that communication platform, that's when you realize that you're not. You have other people that you can go through life with and in a support system. So let's dive into your hot seat question.
All right.
Question that you had this week. You caught up. We talked about it a little bit, and I was like, you know what? Let's jump on because I'm sure a lot of nonprofits have the same question.
Absolutely. So I have several questions for you today, Tracy, and one being, as a nonprofit organization, how can we as grassroots organization function if our organization do not have any grant funding or any contributions or in kind contributions. So let me just expand on that a little bit.
Mhm.
So it's a little hard when you start up, and so you have that operating cost, and then you just have things that has to be paid on a monthly, whether it's your website, your emails, your this, your that,
Mhm.
and you're still trying to accomplish your mission.
Mhm.
um, and so how do you go about trying to raise those type of funds, like what can we do locally?
Absolutely. That's a great question. That is a great question, and it's a very common question that nonprofits have. It's like, where are these funds going to come from? So the most important thing, number one, is to prep, and number two is to start where you are and do what you can. So the
Okay.
easiest way for me to explain that is in an as far as an example is concerned. So I have
Mhm.
two nonprofits that just started this year, and both of them just raised 20K. One I'll be giving more. Or I'm sorry, she's at 25K. I'll be giving
Okay.
that information out a little further along this week because it's about to be
Okay.
released as to who that is. And the
That's
other
awesome.
nonprofit, yes, I'm so excited because they're new.
Congratulations.
They're new, and that's the tough time is when you're a new nonprofit. How do you compete? Because
Right.
sometimes you're competing with grants with older nonprofits. For an example, we went to her grant meeting afterwards, and there was a nonprofit in there that was over 80 years
Oh,
they had been in the community. And so I was so happy to see one of my 1 year nonprofits get approved with the
that's
80-year-old
awesome.
nonprofit. But let me tell you
Wow.
what stood out about both of these organizations as to how they got their funds raised in the first year, that 20.
Okay.
Number one, any amount, being grateful for absolutely any amount. So
Okay.
breaking it down to the smallest amounts. If you have a program, start with a smaller program. So
Hmm.
action, money follows action. So for an
Okay.
example, Keisha Thomas, who was on last Saturday, she raised 20,000 on crowdfunding on GoFundMe, in
Okay.
crowdfunding with GoFundMe.
Hmm.
She raised about 20,000.
Hmm.
Someone donated a farm to her, and
Oh.
she's been taking. She donated. I want to say it's about. I don't know the exact acres, but I don't know why 50 acres is coming to my mind. But I don't know the exact acres, but they donated a large amount of acres of farmland to her, and she's about to do a tiny home community and all types of things on the
Oh,
farm that are going to help with the pandemic and things like that.
that's
So what are
awesome.
two things exact? Absolutely love it. She's located in Texas, and there's two things that stand out to me about her organization.
Okay.
Number one, her funding started coming in after she got the farm donated.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
something was kind of starting, and people saw that, oh, okay, I'm giving to something that's already going. They already have this step one done. Now this is why they need A, B, and C. So a lot of
Hmm.
times, depending upon where you're at, starting with something small. So like,
Hmm.
you can being that you're doing mentorship, that's great because that's a service. So
Right.
even if you just start with something like you are going to be doing something online or something that does not really take a whole lot of finances, so you can start to build up that reputation and build up
Okay.
what you're doing. And they're like, oh, this is what you're doing. You had 20 girls from
Hmm.
this county they've been attending this weekly Zoom or monthly Zoom. Okay, great. That's great numbers. We want to help youth girls in a certain county. Oh, looks like somebody else joined us here. She may be able to hear. Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Your secretary there. But
Oh, good.
but like I was saying, like doing something small, some type of small action to give someone a visual. Because
Hmm.
unfortunately, as entrepreneurs, when we see the mission sometimes, or
Uh-huh.
we hear all of the things that the nonprofit is going to do or planning on doing, there's
Hmm.
so many, especially as if it's a grant, they're seeing so many different things. You
Hmm.
have to find a way to almost stand out. And so the great best way to stand out is that action. Okay,
Okay.
this is what they're saying they're going to do, and then this is what they've already done in the community. This is
Okay.
what so that's how I've really seen another way to build your funding is
Hmm.
to work with your board to create multiple streams of income. And what I
Okay.
mean by that is it's easier to get grants if they
Hmm.
know your board. Sometimes they'll ask, do your board members donate? What percentage of your board donates? On
Right.
some boards, like for instance, I serve on a board of one of the transitional homes here in Indiana, and
Hmm.
they actually have a request that you donate a certain amount per year. which you could
Okay.
do that for your organization as well, as board members, because you want your board to be active, involved, passionate about your project as well. So you can also raise funds from the board. But
Mhm.
this is the cool part about raising funds with your board. It
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily, you want to have a diverse board. So you may have
Okay.
someone on the board who may can't contribute a lot of funds right now, but
Mhm.
they may be able to contribute some in-kind donations. They may be able
Mhm.
to be some of your volunteer mentors. They may
Mhm.
even be able to help you with fundraising. So now if
Right.
it's a one-person fundraising, they can go
Mhm.
to their networks and things like that, let them know what they're doing in the community. And now you have someone else fundraising as well. So
Yeah.
to make a long story short, I would say start small. Start
Okay.
small. What
Okay.
you need for your first project is that if it's $1,000, $5,000, hit that goal, hone in there, stay in there. And once you're done with that first project, to go up to the next level and next level and next level is a little bit
Mhm.
easier. So almost like a snowball effect. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, and we are actually on the right track with that. So
Good.
that's great. Yes, thanks for
Awesome.
confirming that. Thank you. So I'm not sure how much time we have for questions today, but I do have a few, so let me know.
No problem. We
um,
stay on typically about 20 minutes. So
okay, okay,
yeah, but yep, just go ahead. I'll let you know.
okay. So
Uh-huh.
my next question is, if an organization does not have a professional grant writer, or there aren't any fees available in the pool of operating cost.
Mhm.
What do you suggest? I mean, I know that right now we are fundraising, so you kind of touched, or you touched a good deal on that.
Mhm.
But do you have any other suggestions in terms of, like, are there organizations or community partners that we can talk to that could help? Startups like ours who's grassroots and just, don't have that funding right now.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Kind of
Thank
a
you.
two-part answer for you there. So number
Okay.
one, I'm glad you said partnerships because one of the streams of income I talk about is businesses in the area. So what you're
Okay.
going to want to look for is win-wins.
Okay.
So you have a girl empowerment youth girls program. What
Mhm.
types of products and services in your area would benefit from the connection with your community? So, for an example, I've had youth programs get donations from like feminine hygiene companies and things like that. I've had people
Okay.
get donations from there's a jewelry store that's in the mall that does donations as well. Just because, and the reason I say this, let's say you're doing a Zoom event or a physical event. If one
Mhm.
of the benefits for businesses is that you either get on their website or you get into some of their packets, maybe some
Mhm.
of your girls will also utilize some of their services. So that's
Okay.
one area is to add those businesses in there and possibly see if they can get some things in. Now, for grant writing, you don't necessarily having a grant writer is great because they know the right ones to look for. They know the ones you're going to qualify for. They've applied for them before. However, if you don't
Mhm.
have one, you start with where you're at. And so
Okay.
what you can do is you can research grants. I will list here on this site some
Mhm.
links to some different companies that there's a couple of them that have search engines or put out different grants that are going on in the community. So you
Okay.
definitely want to check those different websites whenever you can. Make sure you kind
Okay.
of keep up on them maybe on a weekly basis. Then when
Okay.
you find a grant that you feel like you qualify for, you just
Mhm.
go through that process and answer each thing one at a time. They're going to
Okay.
ask you stuff like your mission. They're going to ask you stuff like how are you going to connect with the young ladies? They're going to ask you how many are you currently serving and do you plan to serve? It
Okay.
may seem overwhelming, but remember that all of the questions are going to, all you're doing is you're preparing for the next grant. So that
Absolutely.
means that once you answer these once, you'll be able
Uh-huh.
to pull them from, and of course, I will use a Trello board. You guys know. And I just halfway built a Trello board. We talked about business planning last week. So if you guys
Mhm.
didn't see that video, make sure you watch it on
Okay.
YouTube prior to this. But
Okay.
I would use a Trello board and I would break that application into parts if it feels
Okay.
overwhelming. And if there's anything you don't know, we have
Uh-huh.
this wonderful world of the internet and all of these people as well,
Right.
where you can get that question answered. Hey, what do they mean financial audit? Let me throw that
Okay.
in online right now and see what that is. How do I get that? If you don't have
Uh-huh.
it, don't get too worried. A lot of times people
Okay.
see some things and they're like, I'm new, I don't have that. Well,
Right.
let's just find out what it is so we can get it. and then I
Exactly.
qualify. So yeah, so
Okay.
you can go. I've seen not just this, not just you can, but I've seen nonprofit organizations who don't have a grant writer get awarded a grant by just going through and slowly submitting the application and just learning the things that they don't know. If they don't know something, they just figure it out. Hey,
Okay.
honey. Hey, Robert Everett. That's my hubby. And our
Hi.
anniversary is tomorrow. So this is actually our last,
Oh,
last segment
happy
before our
early
vacation.
That's awesome. Happy early
Thank you.
anniversary.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate that.
Awesome. How many years?
We are 2 years
All
married
right.
and then about 5 years together.
Awesome. That's
So yeah,
good.
we still
Well,
kind of newlyweds.
may God continue to bless your union.
I appreciate that. I really do. I
Absolutely.
really do. I know I always talk about little side pivot note. I know you
Hmm.
and your hubby is always working together,
Oh,
on
yes.
your projects and things like that. Isn't that so
Hmm.
wonderful to have a partner
Yes.
working with you that's all for your mission and for your vision as well?
Hmm.
Sometimes a lot of my nonprofits that we're working with are either working with their spouse or working with their family. So it's always good. He said thank you as well. But it's always good to see some other couples working together, other families working together, and to just see it works, especially in the minority community, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, my
All
husband, he wanted to be on the call today, but he had some errands to do. So
right.
he's kind of missing out on this one, but he's always here in spirit when I'm doing my Zoom calls or my calls.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. All right. So you had another question for me, correct?
I do. Okay, so the other question is if a nonprofit organization has staff that are working outside the state,
Mhm.
um, where the organization exists, does the organization have to pay workers' compensation for that staff? Uh,
That is a great question. That
Thank
is an
you.
absolutely great question. And actually, we have a payroll person on our team. So
Okay,
I'm gonna have her send you some detailed information on it, but I'm gonna
great.
try to answer that question. For
Okay.
us, for our nonprofits, majority of our staff, what we typically do is
Mhm.
we have them work as 1099 contractors. Now, that's
Okay.
still there's still workers' comp and things like that involved with that, should you want
Mhm.
to have those things. But for any nonprofit and or business period, whether or
Mhm.
not you pay workers comp, and I'm almost sure on this, but again, I'll have my payroll specialist look at it and make sure I said it correctly. But
Okay.
that's always a benefit that you can add to your staff or
Okay.
not. It's your choice. So it's
Okay.
your choice as a nonprofit.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. Yes, I look forward to the links, Tracy. You know I need
Yes,
them.
no problem. I'll send the links and I'll have her send you over some information as well. And payroll is sometimes an issue when it comes to nonprofits, especially now with everything that happened with the pandemic. There's a whole lot of funding that did go out, but
Mhm.
there's some of the funding is going to be forgiven. However, if you used it for payroll. So a lot of nonprofits right now are trying to professionally set up their payroll because they're like, I don't know how that works. The money's just coming in. And, so that is a common question. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
And thank you for sharing the links for us. We
No
appreciate
problem.
it. Let's see. My next question is, do you have any recommendations for fundraisers for new organizations?
That's a great question. I would say yes. I would say the easiest Kickstarter fundraiser that I've
Mhm.
seen nonprofit organizations raise somewhere between, depending upon what their circle is,
Mhm.
$1,000 to $5,000 in kind of startup funds, is
Okay.
to do a fundraiser very similarly. Here's a good example so you guys understand this. When your kids come home from school and
Uh-huh.
they're selling cookies or they're selling some of the cookies or the candy or something at the school, and then they get a prize at the end. That's
Mhm.
basically a nonprofit fundraiser structure. So
Okay.
what you're going to do is, this is great when your nonprofit is just starting and you're introducing it to the community to say, hey, our first program. It's a lot
Mhm.
easier to raise funds for a program than it is to raise funds for your entire annual budget for your first fundraising. So it's really
Okay.
easy to say, this is our program, and then really just talk about that program and the transformation and what you're doing with that program. This is
Mhm.
how much it's going to cost us. And actually doing it via Facebook or whatever platform you have more of your network and the people who are around you on, because when you're first starting as a nonprofit, you have to build your reputation. So a lot of times people will give to the nonprofit and donate to the nonprofit just purely because of you, because they know you, they know the board member. They're like, okay, I'm going to support her. So while it's just coming out, it's great to solicit from family, friends on your social media platforms just for those Kickstarter funds. That's how I've seen a lot of nonprofits get started.
So we are actually, and thank you, Tracy, for elaborating on that. If you don't mind, I'd like to share our book because our secretary, this is, can you guys see it?
Almanac. I love that. Okay.
So this is our Helpful Hints Almanac book, and it just has like a couple of helpful hints. I don't know if you remember back in the day, probably dating myself, but there's a lot of little, there's a lot of tips on here about like And so we've been actually, this was our first fundraiser, and big thanks to my secretary who's on the call right now. Her name is Algerine Gambles. She comes from a great background of fundraising, her and her sister. And so she suggested that we start with these. We're a little shy of $1,000 of raising money for the girls. And so we decided to sell these books. And so we'll be putting these on Facebook for people. They're $10. And so they will be available, on our website. They'll be available on Facebook. And so this is how we're starting. So if anybody has questions about,
And what is your website? Let me add that on here right now.
It's girlempowerment.org. www.girlempowerment.org.
Girlempowerment.org. So that way, anyone who wants one can go ahead and be able to grab that. Absolutely. I love that. I love that book. That's really neat. Helpful Hints specifically for girls. I love it. Oh, there you go. Right there. Is this it right here? Girlempowerment.org.
That's it. Yeah. Thank you, Tracy.
Look at that book as well. I want to mention something about that. Oh, hello, Allison. Hello, Florida. I want to mention something about that. That is what you've already done organically and naturally is exactly what I would suggest for nonprofit fundraising.
Okay.
A lot of times, like even for the book, even just saying the book is $10, you can, instead of saying that, you can say you received this book as a gift for your donation of any amount. Now I don't feel immediately like, because if I want to just donate $50, let's say, I just get that, you know what I mean? We're not putting a value in the book because I know that way to make the book, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it would only be like 10. I don't want to, it's not about charging, it's about that donation portion.
Exactly.
For a donation of any amount, we'll send you this book that you can give to one of the young ladies in your community, and or just have for yourself, or you can get a couple, and give them out as well. But tying a product or a service, something that the donor is going to win with, to the donation process.
Okay, that makes sense.
Service to the donation process. That's a tip that is one, and a good example of this, for an example, would be, let's see, there's a lot of nonprofits that do what is it called? Where they auction. That's what it is. I lost the track.
Auction. Okay.
But a lot of times the stuff will actually go for way more than the actual value, because it's where you're raising funds for a cause as well at the same time.
Okay.
So tying a great product or service to something that you're raising funds for is awesome. For an example, a lot of my nonprofits know this, for every individual that we coach for nonprofit and for business, there's also, and those are paid services. We also coach for free women who are survivors of domestic violence as well. And it's like you're winning. You're getting your stuff set up, and you're helping somebody else and giving back at the same time. And so I think that that's a great, congratulations on just doing that on your own, deciding that I want to go ahead and do a product that is going to be beneficial. And I love the almanac, and I love those kind of books. I have a book like that where you could just search for stuff. There's one, a health one, things they don't want you to know about, and I'll just put in there for little. So I assume it's alphabetized.
It is. So there are a lot of things. I'm sorry, I don't know if you could
Mhm.
So, this book is very, let me see, I'm
How,
sorry. I
how,
gotta get used to
all
this.
kind of.
There's all kinds of little helpful hints in here, like how to measure, okay, there you go. How to measure, and the number of servings. So not only is this for like parents and grandparents or whatever, this is great for our girls.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they'll be able to learn, and this is going to be a guide that we'll use etiquette and etiquette training. Different things, how to clean your tea kettle, and these. There's just so many different helpful hints on here.
Oh, how do you clean your tea kettle? No, we're always
Well, let
cleaning
me
ours
tell
with
you, my
vinegar. We'll
my
do vinegar and
mom,
oil, but yeah. Is there a tip? Go ahead.
there is so many tips on here. Listen, my mom, she used this book and she was like, "Girl, I saved my bananas from going rotten." She said, "I looked in the back of this book and it showed you by using lemon juice." And I said, "What?" So
That
this
is
book is
awesome.
it's so many great useful hints in here. And like I said, shout out to my secretary Algerine. She came up with our first she came up with our first kickstart on us fundraising. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do this in steps. And so
Mhm.
for anybody who's listening and you just like, oh God, I want to do that. We actually are going to do this first, which is the almanac. And then our next step is once we get the money all collected for this, then we're going to um, work on the student planner so that the girls will have their planners. And then
Mhm.
once they do the student planner or they have their planners, then we're going to allow each girl to come up with her own recipe to
Oh,
put into our girl empowerment cookbook.
I love that.
So,
I
I mean,
absolutely love that. It's
yeah,
including the girls. You're
right,
supporting them. You can do a picture of them in there. I love that.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
So
you're
those
teaching business.
exactly. And this is what
Mhm.
the whole thing is about is teaching them entrepreneurship. So they will learn how to execute a full plan from A
Mhm.
to Z on how to plan marketing, writing out, your plans and all that. So it's going to be fun, hands-on, but they're also going to be learning and being educated.
That is awesome. I absolutely
Yeah.
love that. I love that product. And that's what we're kind of talking about is those products and services.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the products. Is there some more or more products you guys are thinking about? I love that step method. I don't want to breeze over that. It's so
Uh-huh.
important. This is what we were talking about last week is if something feels like even looking at that book, like when I
Yes.
look at that book and I'm like you said, I want to do that. If one of
Right.
the nonprofits are thinking that, you may
Hmm.
automatically like start to get overwhelmed. Like, oh my
Right.
goodness, I'm not, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do a book? It just seems like a lot of pieces, but if you break it into pieces, then
Right.
you're good to go. So I love that baby step
Thank
mode and
you. Yes.
mentality, taking this step by step, especially right now. There's so
Right.
many distractions. There's so many things going on.
Hmm.
A lot of people are pausing some things because there's just so much noise going on and people are looking at a lot of things right now. So yes, I love that method of taking the baby steps. That's pretty much how my life philosophy.
Absolutely. So
Mhm.
yeah, so we'll be doing some book drives on this and trying to get the girls involved as well because just like Girl Scouts, people see cookies, they want cookies, and they obviously, they just want to, they're passionate for kids, and so oh here, let me just buy some cookies.
Mhm.
So we want to get our girls involved all the time because it's about them. It teaches them
Absolutely.
about business, and so once they understand the value of um, learning how to run a business, then they can appreciate the whole concept of what we're
Mhm.
trying to do to help them in the long run.
Absolutely.
So,
I absolutely love that. Well, did we answer your questions today? It looks like we somehow went 30 minutes, but
we,
it doesn't feel
we
like an hour, does
did. Yes, we did, Tracy. We did. Thank you so much for having
it?
us on.
No
This was
problem.
You have a great platform. I meant to tell you, I love your background. It is just so cute.
Oh, thank you. I try to change it up. We're actually sneak peek working on a little studio, so I'm
Oh,
excited about that. Yes,
nice.
I'm excited about that. But
It's
I love
very you.
the logo back there. Just keeping on pushing. Just remembering to for all of the nonprofits that are starting small and just starting. that baby step was a great thing to kind of end this on that note. Just remember, it's just all in those baby steps. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to be there's idea and there it is. It takes some time, and the more you put into it, the slowly you start to see those results, and everything kind of starts to flow together. So you guys are definitely doing it the right way. And I love to have you come on again. Thank you for being on the hot seat. This is our first. So
I would love for us to join you again, Tracy. Thank you so much again for having us. This was awesome. And thank you, audience, for listening. I hope you all will visit our website. Again, it's girlempowerment.org. And if you are interested in volunteering or donating, we have buttons on our website, and there are a Q&A. We have a chat button as well. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to send us a shout out.
Absolutely.
Even on Facebook.
All right, sounds good, guys. And I have her links there, and any of the links we discussed, I'll be adding them to the site below as well. And I will see you guys this Saturday at 11 a.m. We're going to have somewhat of a special guest since we're going to be kind of vacationing. And then I'll see you next week. If you want to be in the nonprofit hot seat, you have a nonprofit idea or a business idea, or it's already up and going, go ahead and shoot me a message or comment below as well. And I will see you guys in the next video.
Bye. Thank you, Tracy.
No problem.